All right, so thank you for tuning in to Chomping the Bit. I am Kyle Edwards, of course. And on this episode, I want to take a look at U.S. men's soccer team as we've gotten through World Cup qualifying now. The other day we saw the draw for the World Cup, so now we know which group the United States is in. And I guess want to take like a quick look at the World Cup draw, but more importantly talk about I guess where the state of U.S. soccer is right now, at least according to me, and I guess kind of the job that Greg Berhalter has been doing. So, like I said, let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, I guess we'll start with Greg Berhalter. Now, I know during the process, we've come through the Jurgen Klinsmann days, Bruce Arena, guys like that. And then they turned to Berhalter, who may not have been everybody's first choice. But, after, 17 qualifying when they didn't. And, they had that loss in Trinidad and Tobago that we knew that changes needed to happen. And under Berhalter, we've seen some of those changes. The team has gotten younger. We've seen, new faces out there. We've also seen kind of a, not revolving door, because that makes it seem like, he is like grasping at straws in terms of putting together a lineup. But it seems to me that he is, not unwilling to, pull a guy who may not be playing well and put in a lesser name to give them a shot. And I think by doing that, he's created a program, if you want to call it that, where, you have young guys and new faces that, go into the U.S. camp, and they really try hard because they know that there's a legit shot for them to get out onto the field. And I think what happened probably with Arena, Klinsmann, and those guys was there was like a set group that they kind of relied on maybe a little bit too much. And it seemed like that group could have used an influx of new faces, but it just never happened. Now, don't get me wrong, Michael Bradley and Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan, those guys, yeah, they were great. But maybe they were too much of the focus for a little bit too long. But, now, like I said, Berhalter, they've gone through World Cup qualifying. Some people may, want to ding the performance because they finished third in the group. I'm not of that mind. For me, it was just qualify, and that's a success for me. Yes, the way it ended with Costa Rica, the 2-0 loss may not have been the most desirable result, but U.S. went into that game knowing that they could play a little bit conservatively, which they actually didn't, because they had a few good chances against Costa Rica. It was just that they weren't able to put any into the back of the net. And Costa Rica came out and played really well. Costa Rica played like a team that knew it had a little bit of a shot to get in and went completely at it, did their best, and they wound up fourth, so they have their playoff against, I think it's Australia, one of those teams. But they now have a shot to get into the World Cup as well. But looking at the team that, or at least the group of guys that could possibly end up going over to Doha and Qatar for the World Cup at November. Goalkeeper wise, I always feel like as down as the U.S. program is, goalkeeper is usually one of their strongest positions, and I think it's very much so this time around. It looks like it'll probably be Zach Steffen as your number one guy, although he has been a little shaky at times. But if you don't go with him, you have Matt Turner, who, from watching a lot of Revolution games, Matt Turner is probably one of the best keepers in MLS. And I know he's moving on to Arsenal, I think, some point this season or next season. I believe he's moving on to Arsenal. So I would love to see how he does out there in England. But you have Sean Johnson, who's another quality, keeper out there. And then Ethan Horvath, who I knew nothing about until kind of this round, where I think he played in that game when Steffen hurt his leg and he came out and he, stopped the penalty kick and all this kind of stuff. So they're kind of set there. Now looking defensively, one guy who's really caught my attention, actually two, the Robinsons, Anthony and Miles Robinson, 24, 25 years old. So they're young, but they're not like, young. You still have DeAndre Yedlin, Walker Zimmerman, who are a little older at 28, but they've been kind of, steadying presences back there. And I even know that there's a couple guys who are injured that I don't know if they'll be. What's his name? I just had his name. It'll come back to me. But defensively, it's kind of the older group on the U.S. squad, and I'm okay with that because you kind of need experience back there. But when you go to like the midfield and forwards, that's where you're seeing a lot of the young guys coming up, whether it's Pepe, who's 19, Wade, 22, Ferreira's 21, Gio Reyna, 19, Luca Del Torre, 23, Pulisic is 23 still, midfield, Tyler Adams, 23. And I think those are the guys that's going to be really important when they do get down end of the year at the World Cup, because it's one thing, past World Cup appearances, it always seemed like the U.S. played, they focus more defensively and then would try to counterattack teams. But I think with this group here, if they could figure out the forward position, because I do think at points during qualifying, finishing has been a little bit of an issue with this team. But this kind of feeds into why I view Berhalter as a success right now, because whether they go out to the World Cup, finish last in the group, which I don't see them doing, but if they did that, it's all about getting those young guys I just named experience on an international level in a top flight competition like the World Cup. Now, yes, if it did happen that way, I would be disappointed, but this is all about, upping the level of play and seeing what you have. And that's where, if some of the young guys aren't ready for that spotlight, you can you can kind of lean a little bit on Jordan Morris, 27, Areola, 27, Acosta, 26, guys like that. So I like the kind of mixture of younger versus, not old, but more veteran players. So then with that, like I said, they did the draw for the World Cup. The U.S. ended up in Group B, and they have England, Iran, and I guess the playoff winner from Europe, which is down to Wales, Scotland, Ukraine. So, we all understand what's going on with Ukraine. So they had some of their games pushed out until I think June, and I believe that's where I think Scotland and Wales have to play Ukraine. So I wonder how. I guess it'll go. Maybe something like Scotland playing Ukraine, and then the winner of that one plays Wales. That might be it, because I think Wales got through their matches, but they were waiting on Scotland Ukraine winner for European qualifying. That was the case. So we'll see who ends up through that. Now, with any of those three teams, that adds a quality opponent to the group. Wales, Gareth Bale, so that's a big name there. But in terms of groups that they could have ended up in, I'm not mad at it, because depending on which one of those European teams makes into the group, their biggest opponent, of course, is England, who was the pot 1 team in the group and is 5th overall. But luckily, its top 2 teams qualify, and that's not like looking past Iran, which will be another tough opponent. And maybe the biggest variable could end up being weather, although I don't know what the weather is like in Qatar, however you want to pronounce it, in November. Part of the reason why they moved from the summer was the summer, it gets up well over 100, and they're worried about players dealing with that. I'm assuming with it being in November, it's a little bit cooler, but I don't know. And that, like I said, is an interesting variable when it comes to the World Cup, because maybe it will favor, South American teams or Middle Eastern teams, African teams. We'll have to see how that plays out in the group stages. But, I'm just happy that they are going to participate in the tournament. We'll get to see these guys on a World Cup stage, because yes, they played in, Nations League. They played in the Gold Cup. They've gone through World Cup qualifying. But when you are out there at the World Cup, that stage, the whole soccer world is watching you. That's a different spotlight. And it's gonna tell us a lot about certain players. Pulisic will learn if he is that guy who, was tabbed to be the guy to lead this next phase of U.S. soccer, to the next, I guess, couple of World Cups. At 23, if they made the next one, he'd be 27, at 31. So ultimately, you could say maybe the next 2 World Cups. And if he does go out there and look at a place that could be an issue for U.S. going down the line in the next couple of years, but for right now, I'm not going to worry about all that. Like I said, for Berhalter, because I heard some of the outrageous talk before they actually qualified, where some people were kind of questioning his standing as the manager for the U.S. soccer team. I'm hoping that this has put a lot of that to bed. And like I said, I was never one of those people, because I thought the simple fact that, Berhalter was bringing in new faces was fine enough for me. That was my biggest issue coming out of the Bruce Arena second stint, which you could kind of tell they just brought him in to kind of put a Band-Aid on whatever the issue was, which I think was aging talent, and they hoped he could, give it one last run. It just didn't happen, so, we moved on from that. But I guess we can sit here and take a look at the rest of the World Cup draw, because there are some interesting groups. Let me pull it up here. Because everybody's going to want to know, of course, group of death and all this kind of stuff, which I don't know if we could really call a group of death yet. It's still kind of early in the process, but here we go. But yeah, like I said, some interesting groups out there. Well, Group A, Qatar's in that group because they're the host nation. That is the group that could be maybe seen as the weakest, although Netherlands is in that group. And we all know Netherlands, historically, really good side in the World Cup, kind of England. But the team to watch in that group, I think, is Senegal. Because I saw them play, was it Egypt in the African qualifying final. And they're going to be a tough, scratchy, they'll give every team in that group a tough game. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's Senegal and Netherlands coming out of that group. I mean, they have Ecuador. Could be a tough side, but I mean, that's what I'm looking. Senegal, Netherlands. Group B, we already talked about England, Iran, USA. Then the Wales, Ukraine, Scotland winner. I'm fully expecting England and US to come out of that group, but we know the European playoff team will be a tough game, and Iran is not a team that you can look past. So the US is going to have to be on their A game to come out of that group, but I think they'll have enough to do it. Group C, you have Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Poland. So that means you'll get Mexico versus Lionel Messi. And what could be Messi's final World Cup probably will be, he's 36 now? So as we get to the other groups, you'll see a couple of stars who, this could be the last time we see them on this stage, and that thing's going to be a great moment as well. But Mexico's going to be interesting as well, because Mexico was kind of down this qualifying round, and I think there's kind of some questions about their manager and all that, if he's the right guy. So Mexico's a little bit down right now, and we know if Mexico does not make it out of this group, I mean, it may cause big time ripple effect with their federation. I mean, yes, Mexico is still talented, of course, but I think Mexico might be in a position where the U.S. was, I guess, a couple of rounds ago, since they didn't make the last World Cup, where they may be, holding on to, I guess, their past players, and maybe they need an influx of young talent through that team. Or maybe it's just they need to change the guy at the top. I don't know. But Mexico has been down for a little bit. But yeah, that one's probably Argentina's to win easily. But it's going to probably come down to Mexico and Poland as to who comes out of that second. You got Group D. You got France, Denmark, Tunisia, and then the qualifying winner between Australia, United Arab Emirates, and Peru. France, probably the favorite to win the whole thing, although for them, that'd be going back to back, which is tough to do with the World Cup. But we all know the players in France, led by Mbappe, who probably will be a Golden Boot candidate when all's said and done. Denmark, we know that the Danish are tough. Tunisia don't really know a lot about, and I guess we'll have to wait until Australia, United Arab Emirates, or Peru wins, and then we'll talk about them. But Group E, we got Spain, Germany, Japan, and the winner of Costa Rica, New Zealand. I guess my money would be on Costa Rica beating New Zealand and watching Costa Rica, if they play the way that they played against the U.S. that final game in qualifying, Costa Rica is going to be a tough team in this group. But obviously the favorites would be Spain and Germany. I mean, it's Spain and Germany. That's World Cup royalty right there. But like I said, if Costa Rica can steal a game or maybe steal a point against Spain or Germany, and then, look to take care of business against Japan, maybe they're a team that can slide in there and get qualifying into the knockout stage. Let's see. Okay, Group F. So we got Belgium, Canada, Morocco, Croatia. You got to look at Belgium as the favorite there. Belgium is, I think, number 2 in the world. And for Belgium, we've been hearing for a while about Belgium's golden age of talent. And I think the one thing that's missing from that golden age would be lifting up a World Cup trophy. So this will be another opportunity for them. Croatia. I mean, Canada, I've seen them play, being in CONCACAF. Canada is a good squad. They have Kyle Larin, Alphonso Davies, who I think is hurt right now, but if he comes back, Tajon Buchanan, who with the Revolution is where I first got to see him play, and he is a dynamic player off of the wing. So Canada could give teams in that group problems. Would not be surprised. Belgium and Canada come out of that group. Croatia will probably be third, but is a team that I wouldn't be surprised if they got out as well. Group G, you have Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. Brazil, number 1 team in the world, also one of the favorites to win it all. So they're going to be the team that's going to come out of that group as the winner, most likely. Second spot, I would probably go Switzerland. But out of the other 3, would not be surprised if either one of them got out of that group. Because I know Cameroon, good team, and Serbia. I mean, that's a nice little group there. Final groups, Group H, Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, South Korea. This group's all up in the air for me. I know Portugal's going to be the favorite to come out of the group because of Ronaldo. Ronaldo's another guy where this could be final World Cup for him. And so like I said, because of that alone, they'll probably be the favorite. But Portugal on the world stage, they've been kind of hit or miss for me. Because I've seen Portugal groups that have been probably more talented than this group come up short of the World Cup. So I'm not going to write them in as a favorite right now. Because I know Ghana's going to be tough. Uruguay's going to be tough. And South Korea's going to be a team. You can't overlook them. South Korea's going to probably be more of a... I think they'll be a team that you'll have to watch on counterattacks, but they'll be tough as well. And that's the World Cup draw. So for me, quickly looking at it, if I were to pick a group of death, it could be low-key Group E. Spain, Germany. Like I said, Costa Rica gets in there. And Japan's going to be tough too. That actually might be the group of death there. Because Spain, Germany is probably the best 1-2 of any group. And Japan might be the best team that probably come in last in the group. So I think that'll probably be the toughest group to win. But just to, I guess, wrap this all up. Yes, the U.S. making the World Cup is an overwhelming success. Getting the draw that they have in Group B. There are worse groups to be in, but we'll say that it's not going to be a cakewalk, of course. So Berhalter's going to have to get this team ready to come out game 1, which is against the European playoff winner, and have them ready to go game 1, because you don't want to drop points at that point, because England would be their next game. And yes, no matter what happens the first game, you'd want them to beat England, but you would like for them to have some points in hand going into that matchup. And then hopefully by the time you get to Iran in the third game, you've kind of already qualified, and that game isn't as important, but I mean, even still, you would still want them to get points in that matchup. So, I mean, hopefully, you guys out there are big soccer fans like I am, because I cannot wait for the World Cup. And even if you're not a soccer fan, watch the World Cup, and it will be a great introduction into the game of soccer, because you can watch domestic leagues. If you live in North America, you have MLS. If you're over in Europe, you got Liga, Serie A, English Premier League, Bundesliga, just to name a few. And those are great, competitively week in, week out. But World Cup is just something different. And I guess before I get out of here, I do want to say the guy, what's his name? Eriksson, I think for Denmark. I believe he's going to play in the World Cup, and that's going to be great to see, because if you don't know who that is, he was the guy who, I think it was the UEFA Cup last year or so. He's the guy who fainted on the pitch, and had the whole medical emergency where they did compressions and all that, and the whole story after that, where they effectively said that he had died on the field and they had to resuscitate him. So coming back from that, and like I said, I think I read the other day that he was with Denmark in training and played in a game for them. Like, that is a great story. So I'm hoping that he plays for Denmark in the World Cup, and I would be rooting for Denmark to make it out of the group stage, only because, like I said, to go from that scary moment to full circle now, actually being cleared and physically able to go back out and play the game that he clearly loves to play. I root for stories like that any day of the week. So, but yeah, it's April now. We still have several months until the World Cup officially kicks off. Now, with it being that far across the world in terms of, I guess, game time, I'm assuming it's probably going to be like morning kickoffs over here in the U.S. Which, I mean, that's cool. But I guess that's something I'll worry about close to actual World Cup time. But I just hope, with the time difference, it doesn't come on at periods of the, night or whatever where you can't really get to watch them. So, but yeah. So, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for tuning in. You can let me know what you think. Are you like me, where you think that this has been a success for Greg Berhalter so far? And let me know what you think about the U.S.'s chances to come out of the group. Because that's all I'm talking about right now. I'm not talking about chances of winning the World Cup and all that, because you just got to make it out of the group first. But this is definitely something that I will talk about again. I think the U.S. men's national team, I'm assuming they probably don't have really any games left until the World Cup. But I will, like I said, be trying to get more soccer talk on here. Try to fit it in somewhere. But yeah, so let me know what you think. If you agree with me about Group of Death, you can let me know those thoughts as well. I guess kind of let you know for upcoming episodes, because I know this past week, I did not do a lot of episodes because, been busy with some other stuff, but I'll try to get you some episodes over the weekend here and early next week. Try to get back on schedule for next week. I'm trying. I'm on it, to be honest with you. I'm really trying to get that done. But I will talk about NBA MVP as the NBA season's coming out to the end. Give you my favorites for that race, which I think is going to be an interesting one to see. I guess by that time, we had the championship game for March Madness. I'll talk about that. Baseball comes back next week, so probably in the week do some preview episodes for the season there. What else? Oh, okay. Gonna do an episode, which hopefully you guys tune in for. But need to do, I guess, like a serious look at LeBron James. Some of the narrative out there and some of the, apologists' views for this season with the Lakers really has me scratching my head, and I just feel like I just need to come on here and kind of set some stuff straight, because some of the stuff I hear from guys like Nick Wright or Richard Jefferson and all this kind of stuff completely blows my mind. The fact that they're on TV and these networks are paying them for some of the stuff that they say. And like I said, some of the other narratives that are out there, but yeah, I'm especially after that game. Now, once again, I'm not a Lakers fan, but the fact of the Lakers being on national TV all the time, so watching this implosion basically 2-3 times a week on national TV, there's been a lot of things that I've observed that nobody's really talking about. So I'm going to do that. That will come probably maybe on Monday or maybe Sunday. We'll see. But it'll be one of the first episodes you hear after this one. But yeah, and then after that, hey, there's gonna be so much to talk about. So hopefully, if you haven't hit the like button or subscribe or follow me over on Twitter at Chompin Podcast, please do so. And if you like this episode, or after this episode, go check out some of the past couple ones I've done as well. Go ahead, share it with somebody help me out, try to grow the community, and if you do that, I'd really appreciate it. So once again, thanks for tuning in. As I always say, be safe out there. God bless, and I'll catch you on the next episode. All right, I'm out.